back to follow in his hometown. What I said to Chris was, I've written this book the night we met, and I'd heard him, he mentioned that he had an agent. And I said, I need an agent. I'm writing this book and I need an agent. And he said, I don't know. He said, that's a pretty big order. And I said, if you introduce me to your agent, you'll always remember this as the night you discovered Colin Broderick. And he did. He introduced me the following day, which was an incredible gift, which set about the process of publication, which is, if any of you have ever tried to get a book published, getting an agent in New York is a nightmare. It's almost like you need an agent to get an agent. And that initial introduction will always be very memorable for me. Thanks very much, Chris. I came here from Northern Ireland in 1988. I was 20 years old, and I basically rolled off the plane drunk and worked construction in the Bronx for a few years, and did that whole construction Irish drinking scene up in the Bronx there that I'm sure it's probably similar out here in Huntington. It's similar everywhere. So I'm just going to read you, to get started, a little scene from this was I was at my after hours bar, the Shamrock Bar in Kingsbridge up there in the Bronx, and one night at about 5 a.m. The Shamrock was without a doubt the saddest place I've ever drank. After 4 a.m, the place was dark as a coffin. The whole bar smelled like piss. The filthy bathrooms were crammed with cokeheads, with empty murderous eyes sniffing their way to oblivion. Someone was always sprawled on a bench, unconscious, or dead for all anybody cared. At least 2 or 3 would be slumped face down on the bar at any given time. There was always a girl or two, differentiated in the smoky haze only by the streamers of dark makeup plastered down their cheeks. Nightmarish stories were mumbled and lost in the din. Someone was always wailing away about the old country. The pool table in the corner at this time of night was about as inviting as a cockfight at a nuclear plant. Tempers would flare, glass would be broken, blood was nearly always shed by sunrise. Maybe that's why I loved it so much. The kind of bar crowd that even the devil himself would shake his ornery head at in disgust. One night, after running short on coke, I left the Shamrock and flagged a gypsy cab on Bainbridge. The driver, a hyper-skeletal black guy, said he knew of only one place, but it could be a bit dangerous at this time of night. It was almost 5 a.m. Sounds good, I said. Take me there. I always loved this part of the high, the search, the anticipation, the danger of getting caught or killed. He drove me through the twisted wreckage of the South Bronx to a street like all the others. Brown brick buildings down one side, brown brick buildings down the other. He paused at the end of the block and turned to me. Whatever happens, just go with it, don't panic. Cool, just don't leave me down here. I won't. He slowly made his way down the block and stopped about halfway down outside an apartment building with a huge centre courtyard. A group of about 10 black guys were standing on the pavement outside of the tall steel gates. There were 4 guys who came to the car immediately, pushing and shoving each other. They were all carrying semi-automatic machine guns. What you want? Rock? I just want a little blow, a gram. One guy just opened the back door of the car and grabbed me by the shoulder. Out, he shouted, dragging me onto the pavement. Look at me. I looked at him square in the eyes. Keep your mouth shut and stay tight to me. Got it. He turned, keeping a tight grip on my arm, and held his gun up in front of him. Back off, he said to the others, and shoved his way past them towards the gates. Open them, he shouted, and the gates were opened enough for us to walk through into the courtyard. They clanged closed behind us. Inside the courtyard there must have been 50 guys with semi-automatics and bags of drugs. They waved as they swarmed us like a school of piranha. You want rock? Coke? What you want, motherfucker? My guide never let go of me. He never stopped moving. He just held out his weapon and kept moving through the courtyard toward the front doors of the building. It was one of those moments in my life where I thought to myself, this is it, numbnuts. You pushed it too far this time. I didn't expect to get out of this one alive. I could picture my cab driver disappearing down the block. No one knew I was here. The pieces of my body would never be found. Maybe I'd been set up. Maybe the cab driver was in on it. I stayed calm and tried to stay as close to my guide as possible. There was death in the air. Here were a lot of very high guys with enough artillery to start a war. Not even the police cruised these streets at night. This could get ugly in a heartbeat. As we reached the doors to the building, the crowd of guys backed off and went back to adjusting their weapons. The click and clack of magazine clips and gunmetal rattled around the courtyard. I didn't need the coke anymore. I was high enough already. There was enough adrenaline racing through my body to keep me up for the next 2 days. The inside of the building was worse. This was a drug fort. No one actually lived here. The hallways were dimly lit. All the apartment doors were wide open. Some had been ripped off their hinges and fell against the graffiti-raped walls. We made our way up the dark stairwell. Barking echoed down the hallways. There was the rattle of machine gun fire and loud angry shouts, too muffled for me to decipher. On the 4th floor, my guide dragged me into an open doorway. 2 Rottweilers chained to a radiator lunged at us, their chains snapping them short by just inches. Their teeth bared, drool dripping off their jaws. Another gunman appeared in the lighted doorway of the kitchen. He nodded to my guide, and I was led into the kitchen. There was a guy at a table in the middle of the floor. He was sitting behind a mound of cocaine about the size of a football. He had 3 guns laid out next to him next to the coke, a semi-automatic, a large handgun, and a small palm-sized gun with a gold handle. There were 2 other gunmen in the room, one leaning against the wall by the window and another in a chair in the far corner. The guy behind the counter kept staring at me. "What do you want?" he eventually asked. "Actually, I just wanted a little blow," I said. "If I'd known we were going off to war, I could have brought my rocket launcher." The guy behind the table let out a huge laugh and looked around at his buddies, who smiled a little. Nobody else laughed. "You Irish?" "Yeah, I'm Irish." "Fucking Irish in the house?" "Yep." "You guys are crazy, right?" "Maybe." "You got that war going on with the Englishman, right?" "You got that right." "You from Belfast?" "I'm from the north, 50 miles from Belfast." "So you know what I'm talking about?" "I sure do." "You guys got guns in the IRA, right?" "I've heard that." "I know your story. You Irish guys are fucking crazy. What do you think of these guns?" "They look dangerous." "They look dangerous," he laughed. "Here," he said, tossing me the big handgun. I managed to catch it without shooting anybody in the process. "What do you think of that?" I held it up and sighted down the barrel, being careful not to point it in anybody's general direction. "This is a sweet gun. I could use a gun like this back home." It was the first time I'd ever held a gun in my entire life. "Go ahead, shoot it." "In here?" "Shoot the damn thing." "Cover your ears, boys," I said. "This thing's going to make some noise." I raised it and blasted a hole in the wall. The dogs in the next room howled ferociously. "Jesus," I said, "this thing's like a fucking cannon." My new buddy behind the table laughed again. "You don't have no guns like that in Ireland. Not that I've seen." "You're one crazy motherfucker, Irish. Here, take a seat." He shoved a chair out from the other side of the table, and I sat down across from him. He lifted a knife and shoved some coke off to the side and chopped out 2 big rails and handed me a straw. Excuse me. "Have one in the house. Slicer, get our buddy here a drink. You like to drink, Irish? That's my specialty." Slicer poured us 2 dirty glasses of Jack Daniels, and handed them to us at the table. "Sláinte," I said, raising my glass. "Sláinte," he said, and clicked my glass. "To freedom. To freedom." We finished our drinks in a swallow. "Thank you," I said. "You're a gentleman." "I'm no gentleman, Irish," he said, shaking his head. "You've been very hospitable. You take me in here and you don't even know me. You give me a drink, some free coke. You even let me shoot your gun. I have close friends who don't treat me so well. Unfortunately, I have to go. I have a cab waiting for me and a girl sitting in a bar who thinks I went to use the men's room." "You have a $20 bill, Irish?" "I sure do," I said, taking out a bill out of my pocket and handing it to him. He took the bill and placed it on the table and shoved a nice heap of coke onto it and refolded it carefully. "This is for making me laugh," he said, handing me the package. I took it and offered him my hand, and we shook. "Thank you. You're welcome, Irish. Enjoy. Mama's boy, make sure this guy gets out of the building safely. No one touches him." I got up and gave him a quick salute. "We're alike, you and I, Irish. "I know it," I said. He saluted back, and I slipped out the door with Mama's boy, down the stairs and out through the courtyard. This time nobody bothered us. There was my cab driver waiting nervously by the gate. I slipped Mama's boy a 20. He nodded and turned away without speaking. "Where the hell did they take you?" my cab driver blurted as we pulled away. "I thought you were dead, man." "I guess it was my lucky night," I said. "Thanks for waiting. We're going back to the Shamrock on Kingsbridge. I think I need a drink. I think I need one myself."